Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Sugar Daddy. Some things never change. Sugar Daddy has the flavor which lasts a lifetime. For fast relief of acid indigestion, use 1,000 milligram strong, extra strength Rolaids, the only antacid in an assortment of mint flavors. Yipe Stripes, fruit stripe gum, 4 fruity juicy flavors. Share, dare, chew it, blow it. It's Yipe Stripes, fruit stripes regular, and bubble gum. New World Wrestling Federation Superstars Cookies from Salerno. Great tasting cookies in 10 fun to eat WWF wrestling shapes.
Hey, look at this! Hulkster holding on, trying to pull him out. It's flaring from behind. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Taylor did it. Yes, yes, yes. He did it. I told you myself. I told you myself.
Royal Rumble.
I told you. I told you. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, I told you. I told you. I did it. I don't believe it.
All right, by virtue of winning the Royal Rumble, we have a brand new World Wrestling Federation champion as the press watches on. At this time, to present the title belt to the new champion, our president, the distinguished Jack Tunney.
Congratulations, Ric Flair, on becoming the undisputed champion of the World Wrestling Federation.
Let me just say, after Vito distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one. And this is the only title in the wrestling world that makes you number one. When you are the king of the WWF, you rule the world. Think about it like that, Mr. Perfect.
Guys, hold on up the wagon.
Woo! Woo! Let's give a big one. Woo!
WWF Superstars compete in the Royal Rumble for the undisputed WWF Championship, including Jake the Snake Roberts, the Barbarian, the Model Rick Martel, the Berserker, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Nasty Boy Sags, Repo Man, Sergeant Slaughter, alleged real world champion Ric Flair, Hercules, Colonel Mustafa, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Skinner, the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Haku, Shawn Michaels, the Warlord, El Matador, Sid Justice, IRS, Nikolai Volkov, the Texas Tornado, Virgil, the Undertaker, the Big Boss Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Superfly Snuka, and the immortal Hulk Hogan. It's time to rumble! It's time for the Royal Rumble!
Released in 1979 from the album Freedom at Point Zero, it is the great Jefferson Starship with Jane, peaking at the Billboard Hot 100 at number 14. It is America's number one bi-coastal podcast, representing Phoenix, Arizona on the West Coast. Evan Moody with you, and representing the great city of Coral Springs, Florida. On the East Coast, Andrew Gruthius, how the hell are you, my friend?
Hello, hello. I'm doing fine. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, doing great. We are actually literally less than 24 hours away from probably the most exciting pay-per-view on the WWE slate for the year.
On its own.
Royal Rumble.
On its own.
What do you mean on its own?
Well, just, I mean, one can make the argument for WrestleMania, but as a standalone pay-per-view, yes, Royal Rumble, but WrestleMania is much bigger than just the actual show, so that's what I meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania to me, it's an event almost like the World Series or the Super Bowl. You got to be there, but in terms of excitement and interest, I don't think anything tops the Royal Rumble.
Well, yeah, I mean, so much can happen, and it sets the stage for WrestleMania. It sets the stage for the next several months of WWE action, if as it were.
Well, we are on the road to WrestleMania, but before we get into all things WWE, let's just pivot real quick. I wanted to ask you, as we never got into this, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, we're both huge baseball fans. We actually met on a baseball field. We will get into that story another time. But
that's the Camp Wayne podcast.
Yeah, we spoke about. We've spoken on the phone about it and texted. Thoughts on Houston Astros, Major League Baseball's cheating scandal, the whole deal, and where do we go from here?
I think I think what's happened, like as far as the punishments go, is that what you're asking?
I'm just asking you overall. I know exactly when I texted you my thoughts, but I wanted to let me hear your thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think it's just unfortunate that professionals resort to that. You know, I mean, it's just, it doesn't sound like, to the casual baseball fan, it doesn't sound like a big deal because you still have to hit the ball. But I mean, come on. Like, you're getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and you're really going to pull that crap? And, like, you deserve what you get. And I have no sympathy for anybody who cheats at professional sports in any way. You know, the same thing happened with the Patriots. The same thing has happened in a couple other areas. But I don't know. It's just, it's like, you know what it is? Every week or every month, it seems like something else from our childhood is destroyed. And like my thought process, like when we go, like, I'm gonna throw out some strange things here, but like Bill Cosby, you know, things like that, like things that were so pure and so great from when we were kids. Now all of a sudden, one by one, they're like toppling like dominoes, and professional baseball is the same thing. My thought is nothing real anymore? Like pro wrestling is more real than half the things out there now, you know?
Were you surprised when you heard the news?
The news of the scandal or the punishments? No, because really nothing surprises me anymore. I think
my thought exactly. I'm not shocked because I believe it's in human beings' nature, especially when you're performing at the highest level, to find, you want to call it cheating, finding an advantage any which way, didn't shock me. What did shock me was the level of Major League Baseball. I give Rob Manfred a lot of credit. His response was pretty quick. You had
decisive.
You had the general manager, the assistant general manager, and the manager suspended for a year. Those three were subsequently fired. You had then, as part of the shockwave, so to speak, you had Alex Cora from the Boston Red Sox manager. He's fired. Carlos Beltran, as Gil Freshman would say, guy didn't even get a chance to manage one game. And probably for most Met fans are glad because they didn't want him in the first place. So then you had two other teams, fire their managers. I mean, I was stunned at the level of fines, draft picks, and then the fallout. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, my only question is that as far as the team punishments, why were the team punishments dependent on MLB's punishment? It's like they fired the owner and not the owner, the general manager and the manager of the Houston Astros. They already knew that this had already happened. They were just waiting for Major League Baseball's decision, right? So why did they wait? They should have been fired anyway?
Yeah, well, I think that's debatable. I think because we live, and again, we've talked about this, but I think in some avenue, because society is now, everybody's on a purity test, I think once it got out there on official stamped report with the commissioner's name on it, I don't think the teams, maybe back in the day that, organizations, franchises, they might be willing to go to distance with scandal. I think now they don't want to be debated on the paper, in the blogs, on social media.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're just going to cut bait. I think A.J. Hinch will probably find his way back into baseball, whether it's a manager and an advisor. He's been sort of contrite. I know he was thought to be a pretty sound baseball guy. I don't really care if the other guys get in or get out, but I was just really stunned, really, really stunned.
I wasn't as stunned as you were. We were talking about it. I was
at the response. I'm not stunned that it happened. I wasn't stunned when Spygate came out, and I don't know if that changes even my opinion, because I think a lot of teams, people, we're all ethically challenged, and when you're talking about the highest level, they'll do whatever they can to get a leg up on the competition. A team like the Patriots have had such sustained success almost now for 2 decades. I'm not going to buy that, because they videotaped some practices that gave them some kind of overwhelming advantage. Just my opinion, but I'm not surprised. What I was surprised at was the level that Major League Baseball came out pretty quick. And then all this fallout, people getting fired afterwards. I was pretty stunned.
Yeah, but you know what? Good, because maybe that will be a wake-up call, because nothing really major happened to the Patriots with what they did. Brady was suspended for a few games for the deflating thing, like little things like that. It didn't change things. This changes things. So maybe, MLB, like you said, acted decisively and very firm. Like the only more you could do is go Pete Rose on them, which is interesting because a lot of people are bringing up Pete Rose now.
Yes.
And I definitely have thoughts on that, but maybe this will be a wake-up call for people to say, hey, how much of a leg up do we need? How much fucking more money do we need? Our mansions are not enough. We need to cheat to feel better about ourselves. I don't get, shit. I don't get it.
Is this worse than the steroid scandal? Is this the same, on par, less?
Yes.
Where do you see it?
Worse, because when you're with the steroid scandal, you're really just kind of, because at one point that was legal, number one. Number two, steroids, you still have to have skill. You still have to be able to, because a lot of people were on steroids, but not everybody hit 800 home runs like Barry Bonds. Okay. He wasn't the only one doing steroids. Steroids, from what I understand, steroids assist in your recovery.
I'd like to add one thing, Andy. As I'm looking at you and myself, clearly we're not on steroids.
Well, that's why we've never recovered from all the damage that we've done. But yeah, I think this is worse than steroids, because this is a team doing something that the heads of the team knowing and somewhat endorsing it. The other guy, the people doing steroids, they're doing it to themselves, and they're doing it in private, and they're doing, it's still bad, and it still should be punished. Not, do I think those guys should still be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Do I think Clemens still belongs in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely.
I agree with you, but let's hold that, because that could be a great podcast on its own another time. So let's pivot now to
speaking of steroids, we'll go back to WWE.
Yeah. Well, they do have a health and wellness program.
And people are getting suspended every month for violating it.
Well, I would say when you look at the guys, they're certainly the guys and the girls are physical specimens, but I would say they don't have that completely ridiculous, jacked look of, maybe the mid-'90s, early '90s. Would you not?
Well, jacked, I would say they're more ripped now. As far as sheer size, because that's kind of what those kind of steroids did. Hulk Hogan was never like ripped. He was huge with, but he wasn't like a skinny guy with, bulging abs like that. So I think that the guys are just, look, this is a much more workout heavy era,
Yes.
it's just people have a different mentality back then. Back then, it's almost like they didn't have time to work out so much, so they had to enhance themselves. That doesn't excuse it, but I think that's one of the major differences. Now it's a little bit different. Everybody's flying on private jets to the next town. They're not doing the NWA thing where they have to get in a rental car and drive 19 hours to make the next gig.
It's funny, I watched an interview on YouTube. Cena was doing one of the late-night talk shows, and I don't know if it was Colbert or Kimmel or whatnot, and they asked him, now that you're full-time, movies, do you have more time to work out? And he said, actually, I had more time in the WWE, despite the WWE's hectic schedule. That structure gave me more time in the gym. But let's move on, because what I want to talk to you about, the WWE, and kind of an unprecedented move, has announced the first 2 members of the class of 2020 Hall of Fame. So let me give you a little background. So I want to get your thoughts, but let's talk about Batista, because the WWE is going to finally give him what he wants. See how I added that line? Batista's finally he's finally entering the WWE Hall of Fame. Many will remember Batista's dubious first gimmick as a violent church deacon with Devon Dudley. He moved to the silent muscle of Evolution, to the refined Animal. He had a pretty wild ring entrance featuring Cool Pyro and the Saliva theme song. Probably Batista's best years were 2005 to 2009, coming out of the shadow of his Evolution stablemates and turning into an extra cocky version of himself. He was really the main player on SmackDown during that 4-year run. He had a great tag team title run with Rey Mysterio. He had a career-ending feud with Triple H. Though short, did bring some twists and surprises. Batista's somewhat relatively short WWE run produced plenty of entertaining moments that warrant his Hall of Fame inclusion. Drax the Destroyer is finally in the WWE Hall of Fame. Groo, thoughts on the Animal, Dave Batista?
He's like the Roberto Clemente, except he's still alive.
Interesting analogy. So was he? Was he bringing hurricane relief to Puerto Rico?
Yes, he's a philanthropist.
That is an amazing analogy.
Well, the reason I say that is because Clemente's baseball career was relatively short, but he was always a superstar, and Batista was never a mid-carder. He was always at the top of the heap, even though he came and went. When he came back, it was always a huge deal. He was like everything you just rattled off. That was his whole career right there. He never had a misstep, really. If I had one argument against it, it would be like now might be too soon, because there are still people who still belong in the Hall of Fame who aren't. And Batista basically just left for Hollywood, same as The Rock did, and The Rock isn't in. Not yet. He will be, of course, but I would say a little too soon for Batista, but definitely worthy. Definitely.
Yeah, they're probably going to try and capitalize on. I mean, he has a pretty high level of notoriety right now, and if I was a betting man, it's in Tampa, where I am. I know a lot of wrestlers do live in that area, so maybe he has a place there.
I'm sure he has several places in several cities. He's going to be like Ric Flair, like, this is my hometown, and he'll be in like Worcester, Massachusetts, my backyard.
What I really thought about was, though, for that 4 or 5 year run, he was the face on SmackDown. I mean, he was that top guy.
Mm-hmm. Like, would you say if Daniel Bryan retired now, disappeared for a couple of years, would it be his time?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's the same thing.
I hear your argument, but I think for the Hall of Fame, those sort of trying to put like fixed expectations.
Yeah, there are no rules.
We know it's a Vince McMahon vanity project,
Yeah.
so he's gonna, so when The Rock goes in, and he will go in, it'll be something probably massive, maybe tied into some kind of film or maybe a return to the ring. It's going to be massive, to promote some kind of sellout. So, they're always trying to go one step ahead.
Right. And my question to you is, I know the second inductee, and before you say it, is Batista the headliner, or is this like a co-headliner thing?
Well, that's a good question. I think Batista is a major name and probably could have pulled on his own, but I think you got to go with the NWO as your closer.
Agreed.
Because, well, let me ask you real quick before we get to NWO. Do you think Evolution stablemates will join Dave Batista up on the stage with him?
I don't see why not. I mean, that faction wasn't. It didn't last very long. It was effective while it was there, but it's a good question.
Hold on, I feel like you're downplaying Evolution a little bit.
I am, because I don't think they got everything they wanted to get out of that. Because people were coming and going. That's why. And I'm not a Randy Orton fan, and you know that. Okay,
but here's my thing. Okay, but if you're looking at as a stable, I don't know Evolution had to have at least a 2 to 3 year run on the top. You cemented Triple H as WWE champ. You then brought up both Batista and Randy Orton as champs. Ric Flair, who is the greatest of all time, you made two guys. You made Batista and Randy Orton. Whether or not you like them, they're main event players. Would you say that they were not effective?
Effective, yes.
I think
we're talking about two different things. You're talking about, are they going to be? I drifted there. I was like, wait. Just 1 second. I just want to get this out.
Son of a.
No, I was, for 1 second, I was like, wait, is this Evolution getting into the Hall of Fame? The answer is no. So, yeah, I think they will, and they should join him on stage at some point. Yes.
Does Evolution belong in the Hall of Fame?
No.
As a stable?
No.
Oh, my God. Come on, dude.
No. Come on.
You're absolutely wrong there.
What about the Nation of Domination?
Sure.
Because all right, fine. But see, everybody you just mentioned, they were already established. Like the NWO, NWO changed everything. Evolution did no such thing.
Hold thoughts on NWO. Don't jump ahead. Okay, are you telling me that Evolution, those were made guys prior to the formation of the stable?
Triple H and Flair were, definitely.
Okay, but you had Randy Orton and you had Dave Batista. We knew of Randy Orton simply because of his dad. We knew of Batista probably because we were on websites, but we didn't know any. They had no heightened popularity. They left that stable. They were main event guys. 2 to 3 years they main evented. They were on Raw. They dominated. Triple H had a run, which was controversial as champ. Probably put a lot of people down, but you don't think Evolution's going into the Hall of Fame at some point as a stable?
But you don't. I didn't say they wouldn't. I
just said they didn't.
I said that I didn't think they should. That doesn't mean they won't.
Well, I disagree. Okay, I'm just trying to argue.
Are you saying that Batista and Orton didn't really have much of a singles career before Evolution?
Yes.
Because I feel like they did.
Feeling and knowing are two different things, my friend.
Touche. All right. Hey, on that basis, you convinced me.
Okay.
You convinced me.
You said to me Nation of Domination. Put them in.
Yes.
Because they definitely, I don't know if they
Except
were...
for D'Lo Brown. We still don't like him.
Yeah.
Sorry, D'Lo.
To me, they were... I don't know if they were... that was a period when the WWE was very faction-heavy in the Attitude Era.
That is true.
But I don't know if they were the top, but they were really good. They were really good for a while.
Yeah.
And think about it. Farouk, Ron Simmons, The Rock, Mark Henry. Yes.
They were all in.
D'Lo.
The Rock isn't, but you know what? Nation won't go in until after The Rock goes in. They're not putting the Nation in before The Rock by
Godfather.
himself.
I mean,
Godfather's already in.
Understood, but
right.
It seems kind of weird. It feels like the stable should go in first, then they should go in as singles.
Yeah, except they're all in except for The Rock. That's the funny part.
Let's pivot. Let's talk about the major stable. If not, and we'll talk about this, debatable, the greatest wrestling stable of all time is getting their WWE Hall of Fame honors. What's even crazier about this, Groo, is that each one getting inducted, this will be their second time within this legendary stable that each man is receiving their Hall of Fame induction ring. WCW's greatest stable are now injecting their lethal dose of poison.
I gotta find that soundbite.
WWE Hall of Fame. Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Six, Sean Waltman. They're going to go put on, I'm sure, those iconic classic black and white shirts for their sweet speech. The New World Order defined and really was WCW in the mid to late 90s. So this inclusion makes all the sense in the world. I think the question here, Groo, is we know that they're Hall of Fame worthy. Mm-hmm. Are they the greatest wrestling stable faction of all time, the NWO? Go!
They are the only one that you and I emulated at Camp Wayne for entertainment purposes.
Stop with the Camp Wayne. Like
the answer is, of course, they are. They changed everything. They created the Monday Night War. It was genius, and the guys you mentioned just ran with it and made it even better than we ever thought it could possibly be. Yes, NWO is overdue in my opinion.
Actually, we agree because.
Yeah. But Waltman is not in though. The other ones are. You said everybody was in.
Sean Waltman was in for DX.
Oh, you're right. But he's the only one who's not in for a singles one. The rest are.
All I said was
I
that
understand. I understand.
Oh, this guy wants to he wants to split hairs now.
I don't have many left to split. So
well, you have a little bit more than me. What I would say is, some people like to reference, let's say the Four Horsemen, but that was a little bit before my time. But from my era, I agree with. Actually, I'm not going to add anything. Everything that you added about the NWO was right on par. Let me ask you a couple of questions specific to their induction. Do you think we're going to get some of the less celebrated NWO, maybe some of the NWO Wolfpack guys like Big Show, Ted DiBiase, Fake Sting, Virgil? Might we get some of those guys up on stage with the core four?
I hope not.
Me too.
I'd rather see that as maybe part of the WrestleMania show. I'd rather give these guys their moment. So I hope not, but knowing them, they probably will.
And here, I'm glad. Okay, now you're following my cue because this is the question I want to ask you because we've talked about this before. Should Eric Bischoff have been inducted as a member of this stable?
800 million% yes.
Okay.
I don't quite understand why he's not. I think he should definitely be in before X-Pac, Six, Waltman, whatever. You don't agree with that?
Well, in my notes, I said I can make a case for yes and I can make a case for no, because in my mind, when I'm, it's going to sound weird, but when I'm laying in bed at night and I'm thinking about the NWO, I don't.
What does Marie say about that?
Well, she said, "Get out, get to the couch." Well, I have my hand in the vet now. When you say NWO and you picture in your head, I don't see Eric Bischoff though.
I do.
It's almost like, I know, like, let's say Attitude Era, they had the corporate ministry. I don't see Vince. They were a character. I absolutely believe Eric Bischoff belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I can make a case for yes, because he clearly was the mastermind behind it. He actually wrote the angle. Mm-hmm. And number two, he was a main player. But he wasn't a guy who went into the ring. And when I think NWO, I do think of those core four guys. I think of Hogan, Nash, Hall, and to some extent, yes, even Waltman. So I can make a case for yes, but I could also make a case for no as well. It's like he was the mouthpiece. Certainly he's deserving, but I guess at the end of the day, I don't really have a big problem with them not including him. Maybe I'm off.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think he should be. I'm hoping, and I think he will be the one to induct them. But
that was my last question.
But hey, Marie. There she is.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Marie. What do you think about the NWO going into the Hall of?
She said she likes your hat.
So do I. Thank you. I'm covering up the castor oil covered. Anyway, whatever.
Got it.
But Bischoff, I have a question in the comment.
Go ahead.
My question to you is, when the Four Horsemen went in, was J.J. Dillon a part of that?
Yes, and I was actually at that Hall of Fame. That was in Miami, Florida.
Yeah. So
he was.
So does that correlate?
You're making a good point. Yeah, sure, it correlates. Do you think there's some kind of weird Bischoff bias?
Maybe. I don't know quite why, but either way, they've had bias with a million people, and yet they still, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, they seem to let bygones be bygones. But because it is a very lasting thing. Wait, I just want to get to my comment before you.
Bring it on.
When Bischoff officially joined on television, that was almost as shocking as when Hogan turned, because he was a member of the announcing team. I remember the whole thing. I remember when it was at Halloween Havoc. Roddy Piper was doing was part of the angle. It was huge, and it was really a shock when Bischoff joined, and it showed that he was the mastermind behind the whole thing. He's the Mr. McMahon of WCW. I think he belongs in there with them, and that's and I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people. But like you, I don't have a problem with it. It's not going to keep me up at night.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to put Bischoff at McMahon level.
Well, nobody is, but I'm saying.
However, I'm talking. Thank you. I do believe he has gotten somewhat of a bad rap, but I believe that narrative has changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's almost like akin to maybe like we said, like Billy Joel's too late run, where people sort of got more of an appreciation. I think with time, people have mellowed a little bit on Bischoff and have seen him for more of the genius stuff that he did, and maybe less for his misses.
Really, you think there's anti-Bischoff? I think people treat him with nothing but respect. Really, since he joined up with McMahon in like 2003 or whatever, and it's been on and off, yes, but I think he's very respected in the business. You don't think so?
I didn't say that. What I've said is, I think I would say my take on it would be social media reaction. I think a lot of it was maybe initially he was a little bit more lucky than good that he hit fire on a storyline that was alleged to be sifted from Japan for some promotion in Japan. So, but what I'm saying to you is, from what I've read, there was a genuine excitement when he joined the WWE. It was relatively short-lived. And the one thing I wanted to add is, he just seems like such a good-natured guy. On his podcast, he doesn't badmouth anybody except if it's one of these dirt sheet riders who he feels is. I love how he sticks up for the narrative, but he won't bash the WWE. He won't bash Vince McMahon. He won't bash anybody. Whereas people might say he got a raw deal. He spent maybe 4 months with them. But I think the narrative is, I think it's softened on him. I think people have started to appreciate what he's done. He's had a lot of misses. He joined up with TNA with Hogan, and they actually, I know you weren't big on TNA, but they were building some momentum, and then they brought Hogan and Bischoff, and they brought in all these old WWE guys, and it spent a lot of money.
Vince Russo.
It tanked quick. He's had some misses along the way. I think he's best served now on his podcast, which I do enjoy.
Me too.
I think he's best served as kind of commentating on the past and the current product.
Our competition, by the way.
Yeah, and I think to put a bow on it, I do believe he definitely belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Get in. He'll get in as Eric Bischoff, no doubt. So I don't have a problem with it.
All right,
maybe that's the reason. Maybe they felt he should be in as a single instead of with the NWO, and we'll put a bow on it.
To me, I think he belongs in. I just don't get the feeling there's sort of this sense of immediacy. I think the WWE is going to probably make him wait a little bit because maybe at the end of the day, he was the top guy for their competition.
Okay,
maybe
that's perfectly fine, but he'll get it.
By the way, he had a very good podcast I listened to for a little bit today. Sting's debut in the WWE. He commentated about Sting 2015, Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks.
Yeah, I got to catch up on those. I'm still catching up with Pritchard.
Okay. Let's talk Royal Rumble.
All right.
Ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
No, I said, are you ready? All right.
Oh my God!
We know that
we had such potential.
We did. It went right down. It's part of the WWE's Big Four: WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and the Survivor Series. It's produced in January by the WWE. It's named the Royal Rumble match after the Battle Royal, whose participants enter at timed intervals. We know that in 2018, the women had their first ever Royal Rumble match,
and we were there.
We were there. So the Royal Rumble, like we said, is based on the classic Battle Royal. A traditionally 30 wrestlers aim at eliminating their competitors by tossing them over the top rope, both feet touching the floor. The winner of the event is the last wrestler remaining after all others have been eliminated. The winner of the Royal Rumble typically gets a title shot at the main event of WrestleMania. This wasn't always true because we know in 1992, as we listened, the winner of the Rumble, Ric Flair, actually won the WWE Championship. I believe the WWE added this as sort of an official stipulation at 1993. Gru, do you know the first year of the Royal Rumble and who that winner was?
I do. It was 1988, and the winner was Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
You are correct, sir.
I even know the second year, too.
Go ahead.
89, Big John Studd.
You know 90?
No. Yes. 90 and 91 were both Hogan, then Flair was 92.
Who won it in 93?
I think that was the tie between Luger and Hitman.
That was 94, Yokozuna.
Ooh, Yoko. Okay. After that, I'm lost.
Steve
but you got to admit, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That is actually really damn
good.
Steve Austin, Stone Cold, holds the record for the most Royal Rumble victories at 3. 6 people have won 2 Royal Rumbles. Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Batista, Triple H, and Randy Orton. So that's pretty rarefied air, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think history is going to repeat itself this year, though.
Do you know who has the most total eliminations as a wrestler?
I did know this. I want to say Kevin Nash, but I'm probably wrong. I'm going to say either Kevin Nash or Big Show.
That is actually a great guess. Big Show has had, according to my research, 31 eliminations, but the wrestler with the most number of total eliminations that's got to be Kane with 44.
Wow, I would have never guessed that.
And let me ask you one more trivia before we get into the meat of the Rumble. Do you know what wrestler had the single most eliminations in one Rumble match? And given a guess to a number.
Is that Nash? Diesel?
No. God, you're so old school. You love. Oh God.
So then it's more recent then.
Yes.
I don't know. Becky Lynch.
In a most controversial year, 2000. 2014's Roman Reigns with 12 eliminations, topping Kane, who in 2001 had 11. So
wow,
that was actually a controversial Royal Rumble as Roman got booed out of the building in Philadelphia, the great city.
And you want to know something?
I want to know something.
No, you'll appreciate this. Just for the folks out there, or the two people listening to us, we put those clip packages. We've started putting those clip packages together at the beginning of the show, and Evan wanted me to get one of Roman being booed out of the building. Right?
You asked me about that. You couldn't find it?
Well, I have the network, but they kind of pipe in cheers. It's doctored. It's doctored. So it really was not effective at all. You could still hear some of the boos, but I remember it being, wow, like, if this doesn't trigger a heel turn, nothing will. But that was seeing it live. But on the network, it does not have that same effect. So that I figured you'd find that interesting. The hell with the audience.
Well, yeah, I think that's a bad move actually by the WWE.
Of course it is. It's like let the history be the history,
Yeah, I mean, I could understand if it was something really bad or really shocking.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's next? Howard Stern editing out pieces from Sternthology?
Oh, wait a minute! Back the truck up there. You hear these patches of silence, that's where Artie Lang was.
Yeah, actually, I really think they've edited out Stuttering John on a couple of things.
Oh, I haven't heard his name mentioned in a long time.
Yeah. Well, I would say the biggest piece of excitement for the Rumble is always the guest entrance, meaning wrestlers who are not on the active roster. It could be a new up-and-coming free agent. It could be a throwback veteran or a Hall of Famer. It could even be a celebrity or some type of comedy piece. Obviously, this year there are some names to be rumored as special guest entrants. So I think the first one, would you be excited if John Cena shows up for the Royal Rumble?
Not as a surprise, no. I think someone like that should still be announced. To me, he's still part of the current roster. Even though he's not around much, he's not a huge surprise to me.
Would you be surprised if I told you he has not wrestled actively in over one calendar year?
I knew that.
Because
because they made a big deal of it when he was not in the last pay-per-view. They said this is the longest he's ever gone without being on a pay-per-view. So that's the only reason I know that. But it's still, it'd be great to see him. He's always fun, but as surprises go, I would be hoping for something bigger than that.
Okay, well, another name rumored. Well, I've read Santino Marella. That's probably going to be a comedy piece.
I hope the hell that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Why would they waste a spot with that?
I don't know. There's always a possible hornswoggle. One name that's been bandied about has actually been the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Kane. The Big Red Machine had 11 eliminations in 2001 and has eliminated 44 men as a total. Hold on. Rumored to take part in the Rumble as a way to get involved with Bray Wyatt, as the two are rumored to face off at Saudi Arabia's Super Show. Either way, for me, if Kane is there, it's going to be a nice veteran shout-out, but nothing more. Any thoughts on if Kane shows up for the Rumble?
I think I thought he was already kind of announced. Because I was reading something yesterday that at this point there are only 2 remaining spots that are not filled because Kane took that 27th spot. I feel like he was announced.
Thank you for noting my poor research.
No.
Way to preserve the show.
I just. God damn it.
Let me throw this at you. All right, get focused.
I will scream and yell like
get focused.
I will be so excited if Kane shows up.
I wouldn't be.
No, I wouldn't be either.
It would be
It's
nice.
predictable.
I would like to see it, but I wouldn't get excited over it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the heck out of his Broken Skull Sessions interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin because he's just a really super nice guy and he's a pretty knowledgeable guy. I enjoyed hearing some of his views on the world other than wrestling. He is a politician.
Yeah.
I enjoyed hearing
Well,
it.
but how are they going to set up a real program with him with the current champion if he's got mayoral duties?
Well, listen, like anything else, you could take off time. I mean, Jesse Ventura, when he was he got involved with other stuff beyond wrestling when he was the governor of Minnesota. I think the thing with the Super Show makes a little bit of sense only because Saudi seems to have a very keen appetite for nostalgia. Mm-hmm. They like seeing all the Attitude Era and the early 2000 guys on the show. They're not keen on Shorty G. They like to see main event guys that had big names even from the past.
Maybe I should move to Saudi Arabia.
I think Saudi School District has a sub opening. You and I should.
Saudi #1 USA hot fui.
All right, so let me throw this one at you, and let me just give you some of the side notes. Hold your breath and hold your applause.
Wait, let me put my cigarette out.
Sexy Adam Copeland, Edge, has publicly said he's not coming back for the Royal Rumble. Many don't believe him. Let me credit RingsideNews.com. As they said, the word going around town is Edge could be used as a special attraction. The WWE continues to deny it, but there is very strong rumors and feelings that we will see the Rated R superstar return to the ring. He has signed a new deal. He was spotted in Pittsburgh on WWE Business. Sexy Adam Copeland could be maintaining the code of denial, which is a common practice for a WWE return. We'll know on Sunday. I'm all in for an Edge return. Forgetting about the ring possibilities and matchups for a minute, how would you feel about a return of the Rated R superstar to the Royal Rumble in the WWE ring?
Now you're talking. That is a big deal. Yes, I don't think it'll happen as an entrant. I do think he'll be there. I think he'll do something. I don't know what, but as like a number 30 or a late entry or whatever. But the reason that I don't think he'll be in there is because he's still young enough and vital enough that if he does come in, he's really gotta win. Wouldn't you think? Like, he's not a DDP. Like, DDP came in like a few years ago, like everyone was excited, and then he got thrown out within 30 seconds and just smiled and went to the back. Edge is not at that point yet. So I'm sort of hoping that he doesn't take one of those spots.
So you asked me, does he have to win? I want to table that for just a few minutes, and we're going to get to that exact point. Okay. I think the other big name that's rumored, and let me just go with it. I'm sure you're going to call bullshit on it, but
no, I won't. I know who you're going to say.
CM Punk.
Yeah, I know.
The rumors are not as strong, but we do know he's back because they always come back. The bottom line is CM Punk did return to WWE programming on Tuesday, November 12th, as an analyst for the Fox Sports 1 program, WWE Backstage. He's had a pretty good showing, strong, compelling start on Backstage. The ratings do seem to increase when he's on there. He did have a pretty successful run. Obviously, most fans are praying for an in-ring return for CM Punk. He might be down for a WrestleMania match, would be a huge spot for him and a possible opponent. So at first, I was so excited when Punk was announced even to come back for WWE Backstage. And then after a while, I was kind of not so excited about it. But then Paul Heyman did make a very interesting comment on Monday Night Raw last Monday that Brock Lesnar will face any contracted challenger. Now, I've never heard Paul Heyman say that before. Contracted challenger. We know that Punk is not a WWE superstar, but he is contracted to Fox Sports 1, which is a division. They're connected to WWE. So, Groo, I want your thoughts on a possible, but not probable, but possible return of CM Punk. Hit me.
That Paul Heyman is one cunning son of a bitch, isn't he? I believe, even before that happened, I believed that Punk will be in the Royal Rumble. And what Heyman said only confirms it to me.
Is that some kind of weird Easter egg?
What do you mean?
Actually, I want to hit myself. I know I sound like you. I'll be saying tropes and
Well, what do you mean by Easter egg?
Well, I think obviously
just like a novelty surprise.
I think the WWE sometimes gives you a little crumb as to what might happen in the future. And
yes,
I don't know, but it was. I mean, he's really steadfastly denied. He's trying to play himself as a interested wrestling observer. He is on backstage, and true to his point, he won't always just put out the company line. He will criticize, and he hasn't been just a complete jerk. He will certainly put over talents and storylines that he thinks are good, but he will bash when he feels it's needed. I mean, he's really put up that he's not interested. The feeling going into the Rumble is Edge is a lock. I don't know about Punk, but I just wanted your thoughts on CM Punk. I mean, if he comes in, yeah, I'm probably going to go pretty nuts too.
Yeah, I think that the WWE is looking for where the heat is, and if he doesn't show up, it's because he doesn't want to. Not. I think the WWE definitely wants him in.
So factor in Edge and CM Punk. What would, and you can put those two in the mix. What is your biggest men's main event do you think that they could put forth for WrestleMania?
Oh,
is that Brock versus Edge? Brock versus
I would say Brock versus Punk.
Me too.
That's the best I can think of right now.
I mean, if you and we're in Tampa and it's Punk versus Lesnar, that's closing the show, and we're drinking 15 coffees, so we're dialed in for that main event.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting there for 17 hours before.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect setup for that. It really is. I mean, if the WWE is talking now, we're going to do predictions later in the show.
Well,
right?
I'm going to get to the actual card, but here's my last. I don't even know. By the way, is the Rumble in Pittsburgh?
I think it's in Houston.
Oh my God! Right, you're right. You're right. It's in Houston. Okay, I think the Edge thing in Pittsburgh was because that's where the WWE doctor Merloni is. That's where his offices are.
Oh, it's not Dr. Bob Bonovich anymore, who repaired Ricky Steamboat's torn larynx from Macho Man.
It's Dr. Vinny Boom Box, actually.
The Rumble is in Houston.
Okay.
So that's Shawn Michaels territory, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get. I think Michaels was not happy with his performance at the Super Show, and I think
that's true. But one person you didn't mention, and this, and maybe because this I read today.
Go ahead.
There are rumors that Stone Cold Austin is going to be into this thing.
I know that all I read was Mr. Tito put that out there. I did read his column, but I just don't see it happening. I think he's 51, 52, 53. He's in good shape. I mean, you can see on his interview, he's got some muscle still. I don't know, Groo. I don't see that. I just don't see that happening. I mean, the guy's got a little bit of a career going on now. He's got some television stuff. He's got the interview stuff with the WWE. I mean, from what I've read, he said, he thought about it seriously. I think a year or two ago, possibly when they had in the Jerry Dome in Dallas. That was home state. I think that would have been the time to do something. But the thing about it is the WWE has it's what we've said all along. They have more talent than ever, but they don't have
talent.
They don't have stars. They don't have stars.
I agree with that, but don't you find it interesting that right now at this point you have several people talking about a one last match thing? I've even heard Sting talking about that. You got Sting. Hogan's been mentioning it. Austin's been mentioning it. No, I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm saying they're talking about it, and it seems to be at a fever pitch. Edge, all these rumors about these guys looking to do one last ride. It's just interesting to me.
It's WrestleMania season. It's the biggest show in the universe. So what better way to put You got to move over, dude, so I can
sorry.
see. You're moving. I'm hearing all sorts of feedback. Can we have a professional production?
But we're in the same room.
Okay. Well, we are America's #1 bi-coastal podcast. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I think with Sting, the allure of him wrestling The Undertaker, even at 90, is somewhat.
Wait, at 90 years old?
Is somewhat appealing.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I know you're a Hogan guy, but I have no interest in seeing Hulk Hogan at 60-something years old in the ring. I'm not even sure I have much of an interest at Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Punk and Edge, sure. And Sting, if it was right, sure, because I still think he might have a little bit left in the tank. But these guys are older, and I don't want to see anyone get hurt. Let's get to the actual WWE, the Rumble. You want to talk about some of the matches?
Sure. Let's see how many people I can identify.
Okay, well, can you identify Sheamus versus Shorty G?
Yes, but I won't be watching that match.
Okay, next. Well, this is what I did say. I mean, listen, I think that Shorty G, a.k.a. Chad Gable, they've done a good job giving him a little bit of momentum on SmackDown. They've made him a mid-card player. He's on every SmackDown. He gets a lot of shine. What I wrote is, unfortunately, I don't seem to care, so in my mind, no one else seems to care. Shorty G has some talent, has begun to pick up some steam on SmackDown, but I just don't see him losing to Sheamus at the Rumble. Sheamus is freshly returning. I just don't see Sheamus.
Freshly is a very loose term. I have no interest in seeing Sheamus wrestle at all.
Well, this is a Royal Rumble preview. You should be able to have. Can't you fake it? I mean, forget it. All right. Anyway.
I'm not as many people will tell you. I'm not very good at faking anything.
Okay.
Heyo.
Hiyo. Let's talk about the United States Championship. Andrade, the champion, versus Humberto Carrillo. I hope I pronounced that correct to all my Latin friends. Here's where I think the WWE made a mistake. I don't know if you've been watching Raw, but he's had He's had a good feud with Rey Mysterio, Andrade. They should have kept this, and they should have kept the ladder match and put the ladder match at the Rumble between those two guys. That would have been a great way to do a blow-off. Instead, Andrade wins, and the young guy comes in to save the weakened veteran. My thing is, I think Andrade is going to retain. I think what the WWE needs to do is pair Andrade up with his real-life girlfriend, Charlotte Flair. Take Zelina Vega, pair her up with her real-life husband, Aleister Black. Get those couples in some kind of real-life feud that could make money and features some real up-and-coming stars. I like Carrillo. He could certainly move, but I just don't see Andrade dropping the belt this quickly. And I think Andrade, they're both up-and-coming guys, but I think Andrade's got a little bit more of a ring presence. The thing with Vega, it works pretty well, though I think ultimately he'll end up with his real-life girlfriend or fiancée, Charlotte Flair. I said a lot. I'm going to shut up. Any thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I think with all these people, hooking up, I think how far are we from, a pay-per-view WWE orgy? It's like... Tonight on WWE Network, the WWE Swingers Club. What's going on here? I mean, it's ridiculous. But
you could make a point. There could be some reality television to be mined.
Yeah,
from this.
well, they already kind of do that, but I don't have much because of all the things that you mentioned, all these outside things. I'm again, that dilutes my interest in this match too. There's just too much. Let it be a one-on-one, no strings attached, just two guys beating the crap out of each other. Why did there have to be all these, little side stories?
Sounds like a Saturday night after we've had a few beers. Just two guys, no strings attached, beating the crap out of each other.
Well, we've done it before.
Yeah, we have. All right. I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that there's been some build up there. But it's almost been too built up, and it's
I felt like they should have saved the ladder match for the pay-per-view.
Yes, and that's going to bring me to a point I want to make. Maybe I'll just ask it now.
Go ahead.
Do you think with the addition of the Women's Royal Rumble that this pay-per-view should just be the 2 Royal Rumbles and maybe a World Championship match?
Well, I'm always for less because from what I've read, they're going to give you like another 4-hour plus super show. So
do they not know we work for a living? What are they trying to do to us?
I think
I'm moving to Arizona, so it's on at like 3 in the afternoon.
Even with that, it still ends.
That's true.
I mean, it's 8:30, 9:30, which it's fine.
Well, I don't get up at 3 in the morning like you do. So
well, I definitely agree with you, though. I think the feeling is, and I'll get back to the matches, but let me ask. I think the feeling is it's been. Let's not talk about a specific match, but overall, in terms of the event, it's been an adequate build-up. But I'm always excited for the Royal Rumble, but I'm not like out of my pants excited. I mean, do you feel the same way? Like I'm excited. I'll watch it live, but I just don't have that electricity like where I'm going to be like at 5 o'clock, 5:30. I'm logging on. Like I don't know. Do you feel sort of the same?
Yes,
way about that?
I agree with you, and the reason is because, like that in that opening package that we played, Vince McMahon literally rattled off all the names of the people in that Royal Rumble, and 95% of them were Hall of Famers, and it's just not the case anymore. Like there seems to be filler. There seems to be a lot of that, and like you got three quote unquote promotions coming into this thing. You've got Raw, you've got SmackDown, you've got NXT. They got a huge roster, and
they sure do.
And like you said, there's no real superstar. There are a couple, but there's the stakes are not what they used to be. That's the thing.
There's a lot of stars, but there's no superstar.
Right, and like I said, the stakes are just not there. So it's
not.
You're right.
A lot of Thurman Munsons, not a lot of Reggie Jacksons, though.
You pissing on Thurman Munson?
No.
How dare you?
Let's talk about.
Thurman was the straw that stirred the drink.
Yeah, well, Falls Count Anywhere, Roman Reigns versus King Corbin. Let me tell you a couple.
Don't care. Oh.
Well, we're here to discuss the entire. Can I give you my thoughts, or
of
are you going to just shit all over it?
No, I'm shitting. I'm not shitting on you. I'm shitting on the match.
But we're here to discuss the whole card. I mean, this is what I think. Unlike most, and clearly you're most, I like Baron Corbin for what he is. He's an old school, cartoonish, buffoonish heel that we don't see very often this day. Clearly, this is some kind of placeholder feud for Reigns, as the WWE down the line is going to look for something bigger and better for him. And that somewhere starts at the Rumble, where Roman's position on the roster demands that he's going to get the win here. And I don't think so basically, I think he's going to beat Baron Corbin. Roman wins. But does he win at the Rumble? That's the question. Now, I think some people are saying maybe Baron gets some kind of chicken crap win, which lines Roman up later on in the card at the Rumble to get his win, to get the ultimate shine. I'm not going to say my thoughts on the Rumble, but I think Roman goes over clean over Baron Corbin in the singles match, Falls Count Anywhere. Any thoughts?
Yes, I agree. He'll go over clean because I don't think they have the balls to have him win the Rumble and face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania again. And that's the only reason. Even though Baron Corbin seems to be pulling wins out of his ass left and right. Like, they seem to be pushing him hard. So clean win.
I like him.
I don't dislike
love him.
The reason that I said what I said when you mentioned the match was not because of Baron Corbin. It was because of Roman Reigns. I'm done with these feuds that are supposed to get me excited, and they don't, because Roman had a chance and kind of blew it. I really feel that way.
I'm not as hard on him as you. I think he's a talented guy. I think he's been a victim of a little bit of the John Cena push in our face, but I think they readjusted. But I do believe now's the time they're going to elevate him to the top of the card because that's where they see him. I'm not going to tell you right now where I ultimately think, but I think it's his. I mean, he's a top guy. Rollins,
I don't
Shield.
know. You don't think they've kind of given up on that? I mean, they tried so hard for so long and it didn't work.
But in the WWE, they've done it a million times. All it takes is one good resetting, and they're back in business. I'm not saying
true.
about him, but you've seen a ton of guys be reset, and a lot of times it doesn't work, but all they're looking for is that one time it does work. So
I'll tell you what I'd love to see.
Hold those thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
Those thoughts. Can I talk about look, I'm asking for permission. May I please talk about the SmackDown Women's Championship match? Bayley versus Lacey?
Yes, but wait. No, I wasn't done with Corbin and Reigns.
Wow.
I was just going to say what I'd love to see if they really want to pique my interest. Do a double swerve, turn Corbin face, and let Roman finally go heel.
You're a common sense guy. Do you see that happening?
No, but that's the point. That's the whole point. I want them to surprise me. I want them to do something out of left field.
I don't think that's the place.
I don't think so either. I was just asking what you thought.
It may happen at some point, but maybe that's a Mania or something. But I don't see that happening yet. I think, remember, he's coming off of a public cancer fight. I don't see them turning him. Maybe somewhere down the line. I don't see it happening anytime soon with him.
Okay. All right.
Bayley versus Lacey Evans. Bayley is the champ. I think, I'll tell you what, here's what I think. I think Bayley still retains. I still think that SmackDown is going to keep the Bayley-Sasha Banks heel combo on top of the SmackDown women division. I do like Lacey Evans. I think her athleticism actually is through the roof. Ex-military. She's an amazing athlete. I think the money on the SmackDown side with the women is in Sasha Banks. And maybe we get a Sasha turn on Bayley, setting up Sasha versus Bayley at Mania. But and I'm not even that crazy about Bayley as champ, but I think Bayley somehow keeps the belt at the Royal Rumble. There,
I think that Lacey wins it, and they set up a rematch at what's the next? Is the next one Fastlane?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I think they'll go back and forth once before Mania, and then do the main set up with Sasha Banks at Mania. I do think the title will change hands here. There's got to be a reason for the match to exist. And and I think the title changes hands here somehow, whether it's a schmaz or whatever, but I think it'll change hands.
All right, so that's one that we disagree.
So we've agreed on all of them so far?
All of them except for Bayley versus Lacey Evans.
Okay.
Let's get to, I think, really the headline women's match, Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch, the champ, versus Asuka. And let me give you my thoughts on this, because I think Asuka is actually your best female wrestler in the company. Mm-hmm. I think she's the most interesting. She's the most physical in-ring performer on the women's side. I think it would be interesting for the WWE to have Becky Lynch lose to Asuka in consecutive years at the Rumble, perhaps setting up some kind of big match at WrestleMania. I think it would be, a great match quality. Unfortunately, I think the most likely scenario is Becky Lynch finally gets over on Asuka and looks further down the line to maybe what they see as an even potentially bigger match with maybe a returning Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler, who is going to most likely move up from NXT to the main roster. I love Asuka, and I love her tag team with the Kabuki Warriors. I hope they do something really good with them, but I just don't see them stopping the Becky Lynch train at the Royal Rumble. Thoughts? I
agree. Even though we're in total agreement on this, I think Becky Lynch gets her revenge. She wins. Even though I would like to see Asuka win. It'd be not. I think she deserves to win. And again, I come back to there's got to be a reason for the match to exist. And the reason here is that Becky Lynch gets her revenge. The title doesn't move, but they're gonna watch. They're gonna be replaying last year's match over and over again, or highlights from it, just to build up the fact that this is Becky's chance to get her comeuppance.
Yeah, I just I think Asuka's too good to be served up on a platter.
Agree.
And I like that. Yeah, at least they're giving her the tag. I mean, Kairi Sane is pretty ridiculous in the ring too. That what was that? Table, ladders, and chairs. That tag team match with Charlotte and Becky versus the Kabuki Warriors. That was some pretty stiff shit. And Kairi Sane got concussed pretty bad. I mean, I was watching that like, oh. I mean, those ladies really went at it and put their bodies on the line. I'm just. I like Asuka. I agree with you. I think the Becky train is going to keep on rolling. She's arguably the most over performer in the entire company right now.
Yeah, she's the man, and in this gender neutral society, it works. She's the
anyway.
Actually, I have one more question for you. I have one more question for you.
Go ahead.
With all these people,
go ahead. Gender neutral. Andrew.
Becky Lynch is married to who?
She's engaged to Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. Okay. Now,
who was in The Equalizer with Kevin Bacon?
Touche. Who's married to, or who's with Dean Ambrose / John Moxley?
Dean Ambrose. That's what's her name? She hosts WWE Backstage. The blonde
Renee Young. Yeah, Renee Young.
Yeah, Renee. Yeah,
Renee Young.
Yeah.
So is Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura together?
Oh, they're not. Why? Because they're Asian?
I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that.
I am saying it.
You said that. I didn't say that.
Okay, gender neutral, Andy.
Why do they call her the man? I don't get it. Becky Lynch.
I think she's trying to say that she's the top dog, so to speak, in the WWE, so she's the man. And I think Ric Flair is now in some kind of lawsuit because he's
as he should be.
He trademarked the man. So anyway, let's talk about the Fiend Bray Wyatt defending his title against Daniel Bryan. The heat on Bray, I do believe, has cooled a little bit, but I still really enjoy this character, this incarnation of the Eater of the Worlds. But this is a gimmick that has very little room for error. First of all, they need to get rid of those puke red lights while he's wrestling.
I do. I am not a fan of that. Were we there? Did we experience that live?
I feel
like we did. Maybe not. What was the last thing we went to? Was it Mania?
Yeah. Well, we went to Raw, and they actually showed the first promo for the Fiend character. Remember, it was the box, and the puppet came out, and I almost thought it was a PSA for smoking because it was like it was like smoke coming out, and I really thought it was some kind of weird, like the Truth campaign.
Yeah,
I had no idea what it was until I got home, and I don't know, I read something, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the new Bray Wyatt character.
Yeah, I don't. So, that red hue is not working for me.
Yeah, and so I think ultimately, Groo, because I asked you to table it, I think we're going to get Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, which is fine because the two have wrestled before and they've put on good matches. But the question is going to be the build-up. I see Bray retaining. I think Daniel Bryan's great. Maybe it's some kind of finish where they could still put a little shine on Daniel Bryan. But I think the question is going to be, I do think it's a matter of time before we see The Fiend versus Roman Reigns. And the question will be the build-up. Can they keep it fresh? Can they generate real heat between these two so that we are excited to see them clash again? So I went ahead of myself, but ultimately I don't see The Fiend losing up until WrestleMania.
No way. You're absolutely right. The Fiend stays the champ at least through WrestleMania or until WrestleMania. He's not losing it tomorrow. He's like the biggest, their biggest star right now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, though, he's lost just a slight bit of luster, or you still think he's I'm not going to say white hot, but do you still? I'm still interested when he comes on, but I do feel like it. At least the live reactions are just slightly muted. Then instead of 100, they're at like 98.
Yes, but I think the reason is because the audience is so impatient, so they're looking for, like, you remember when we were kids, like, these things would play out over months. Now it's like it's the same thing every week. Yeah. So to us, that's interesting, and it's fine to see it go. But like, they want things that, like, the audience is a lot younger. You see a lot more kids out there, and they need stuff to just keep changing, and so I think that's the only reason. But I'm still hugely entertained by what he's doing. I think he has come. He really came back in a huge way, and I think he's incredibly entertaining, that guy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the women's Royal Rumble match.
Yeah. I have my prediction.
Well, I will say this about it. You'll see maybe some new main roster fresh blood. I think they've only announced maybe 5 participants on the women's side. And
so
they have
funny.
They have like 50 altogether. But again, I think the rumors of a Ronda Rousey return would be a big splash. That would be a big money match at Mania. But to me, right now, and I may be way off here, you got a lot of great women's talent established, but it just feels like this is the stage to pop Shayna Baszler, the Queen of Spades, the former NXT Women's Champ. She came up and had that triple threat match with Becky, and I believe it was Charlotte. But I think it's the Queen of Spades time, so my pick is Shayna Baszler wins and goes on to fight Becky Lynch at Mania, which I think will be a very solid women's main event. That's how I see it. My friend, your turn.
I think this is one we're going to disagree on. I believe Charlotte will win, and I believe Charlotte will go against Becky at Mania and take the title from her. I think it's time for the man to beat the man. I don't even know how to, because Becky Lynch is the man, but then does Charlotte Flair, like, what are they?
They're not men, that's for sure.
But they wrestle like men. That's why I like them. But that's what I think. I think Charlotte's going to win this one.
And you're making a case for it. I just think Shayna had the one thing that NXT does well that the WWE doesn't seem to do quite as well is they really invest in their champs. They don't hotshot the title very often. They keep it on someone. Listen, we grew up in an era where it was you could do a year on the back easy, and that might not even be a really good champ. But they keep the belt 6-8 months, close to a year, over a year, and then so when somebody wins, it actually really means something, at least to me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they're gonna, Shayna, it's her time. I think they're just going to try to build her up. But, yeah, I could see your scenario happening very easily.
Now, Shayna's coming in from NXT, correct?
Yeah, but she lost the belt. She did make an appearance on NXT for the Women's Battle Royal. But I think ultimately she'll be in Houston. She'll be at the Women's Royal Rumble. If she doesn't win, they're going to give her a great showing. But I think see your scenario.
The reason that I put Charlotte there is because I think they learned from the mistake they made with Nakamura winning a couple of years ago. And now he's just a lifetime mid-carder because he just could. They got to give it to somebody who can carry the torch, and not everybody can. And Charlotte is the type who can, and I don't think Shayna is, at least not yet. That's my feeling.
Okay, you ready to talk about the big one, the Men's Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you – I actually wrote a lot of stuff down. Can you breath? I'm going to give you my 4 scenarios.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the scenario that I think will go down.
Go for it.
And then I want to hear your comments. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you giving me the time.
You're such a dick.
So, no, I because I actually really thought about this. I pictured 4 scenarios. I'm not being a dick at all, I promise.
No, I know. Just
we know that Brock Lesnar is entering at number 1. That's pretty much all we know. So
right.
So number one scenario would be Lesnar wins the Rumble as the champ and sets up, some kind of massive mega bully champ heel run through WrestleMania. We don't see this very often, but it's rare nowadays that the WWE has a champ that holds on to the title for a long period of time. I know that he's a part-timer, so to speak, but he's held the belt, for the better part of 2 years now. It sets up the Beast as the bully and the champ and setting a course for any kind of intriguing main event at Mania.
Mm-hmm.
Scenario number two. They anoint a young veteran like a Roman Reigns with the win and send him to the main event at WrestleMania. You could say what you want. He is deserving. He's been a workhorse for the company since his return from battling cancer. By the way, an inspirational story that the WWE will remind you, if he main events WrestleMania, they'll remind us all the time. The danger is, though, once again, the fans are going to communicate their displeasure with another guy who is being force-fed down their throat. Didn't really hurt John Cena. Scenario number two is a Roman Reigns win. Number three scenario. Some kind of rookie or unknown for a surprise win. Someone like Keith Lee, who has the size and athleticism to credibly face a Brock Lesnar. The WWE likes to pull what I would call an Easter egg or kind of a surprise or two on its fans. Maybe they go the youngster route. Maybe an NXT guy like Keith Lee or a Matt Riddle. Though for me, it would probably be Keith Lee. But scenario number three is some kind of relative unknown. Certainly Keith Lee and Matt Riddle are known, but it's a surprise win. Number four scenario, and my final scenario, is a surprise returner like Edge, CM Punk for the unforeseen win. So the WWE is littered with talent, but no real megastars. You want to sell WrestleMania? You need a big name. The last time we had real big names is in the early 2000s, coming off the Attitude Era. The biggest name is Punk, but I think the more realistic name is, you think you know me, you think you know me, Edge for the win. So what scenario do I think the WWE will choose? I think scenarios number one or number two are the most realistic because Brock and Roman are actually on the roster right now. I would love for them to maybe do a number three because a Keith Lee or a youngster excites me as a wrestling fan, and I, of course, would love to see a veteran like CM Punk and Edge. But I believe tomorrow night, option number one. I think Vince McMahon loves Brock Lesnar. I think in this day and age of hot-shotting the titles for the most part, since Brock has returned in 2012, he's played the role of the dominant beast. He is a credible champion, though we may not like it. They're going to build him once again as the dominant beast. And if they so choose, they can pass the torch to somebody else at Mania, but they probably won't. It's Suplex City, bitch. And Brock Lesnar will win the Royal Rumble tomorrow night.
So
I still out. Your thoughts?
So if Lesnar wins, who doesn't that take the whole idea of the Rumble out of the Rumble?
No, I think
who faces him at Mania?
Well, I think that now you can go 1,000,001 different options. You don't have to be hamstrung
True.
with the Rumble winner. I think I think they're going to set him up as, this is the Drago unbeatable force, and maybe there, you pass the torch if they so choose at Mania, and you can really hand it off to somebody. I would love to see. I just thought about what would be the four scenarios. I would love to see CM Punk win. I'd love to see a youngster like Keith Lee come up from NXT because I think he's the guy that could face Brock. He could stand in the middle of the ring against him. He's got the size. He's got the athletic ability. I just don't see that happening. I think Roman Reigns still you're risking. I don't really have a problem, but you're going to risk him getting booed out the building, and we've seen it before. So maybe why not go the other route? They did it for a reason. When they place somebody at number one, and they remind you throughout the broadcast, there's a reason for that. There was a reason why he placed, I think Ric Flair was number 3, and he went over an hour. Mysterio, that year he won, was number 1, and he went through everybody. There's a reason there. You make a good point, but maybe they just go the flip side and say we're giving the Rumble win to the champ, and he's just a complete ass-kicking machine, and let's let the other guys scrap it out or somehow build it up from there. I don't know. I'm just throwing out my idea. Floor is yours.
Interesting. Of the 4 scenarios, there's only one that I wouldn't like, and that's the one with Roman Reigns, because is that Roman Reigns for a 3rd time headlining WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, but he could always choose to pick the Fiend. I mean, you have a couple of different belts. Actually, in theory, he could pick the NXT belt. I mean,
but the Fiend isn't in the Rumble. I mean, it's got to have to do with Lesnar. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Any one of the other 3, I would take. I would love it if Brock Lesnar won. I would
What's
love
your
it.
Thoughts? Forget about my scenario. What do you see as
I have a fifth scenario.
Go. Yes.
I have a 5th scenario, which I'm afraid that this is what I think is going to happen. I think Cain Velasquez is going to be in it, and I think he'll win, and I'll be upset if they do that. But I feel like there's a danger in that happening. That is my prediction. I'm predicting Velasquez because, listen, UFC, as proven by last week's McGregor-Cowboy fight, is bigger than ever. And Velasquez, even though I could care less about UFC, Velasquez is a big name. The only way I see that not happening is if Punk is in it. If Punk is in it, he wins. So those are my prediction. 1 is Velasquez. Close second would be CM Punk returning to win. Those are my guesses.
So interesting you mentioned Cain Velasquez. I thought they did a great job with his match at Super Showdown, the Saudi, because it was quick, it was violent, but it had a very much of a UFC feel because Cain was striking, made a mistake. Brock got him in the armbar, tap, we're done. It was like 4 minutes, quick, violent. It had a very realistic UFC type feel to a professional wrestling match. I would like to see these guys tangle, just not under the bright lights of WrestleMania for the first time. I'd like to see them, build up somewhere down the line with the storyline and Cain reminding, Brock, I beat you, but Cain saying, you know what? And again, we all know the details. I would almost be really upset with Cain because I think they're really good at force feeding somebody down our throats.
I agree.
At least Roman Reigns has some credibility as a WWE superstar and a professional
wrestler.
I'd
rather have Roman Reigns win than the Cain Velasquez thing. But one thing I forgot, and I really think I'm getting some form of early onset dementia. But
don't say that because I've been accused of that myself.
Yeah, I'm seriously having trouble remembering. Keith Lee had a huge moment recently. Where was it?
That was
he didn't win. He didn't win, but he came damn close.
Yeah, it was.
And the crowd was behind him. What was it?
Was that Survivor Series? And it was like Team
NXT. Yes.
And he squared off against Roman Reigns.
That was it.
He got pinned by Roman, but he was the last one.
Yes, and the crowd was 100% behind him, and so was I. I didn't even know who he was before the match started, and I was all in for him. So I would love for him to win this thing, and the crowd would too.
NXT is just. I watched a couple of days ago. It's just so hard hitting. Those guys are striking.
And I'm really excited because you and I are going to the NXT takeover the night before WrestleMania.
I really think actually you're going to get your hardcore wrestling fan is going to be at TakeOver because
we're going to have more fun at that.
That's your hardcore. Yeah, that's going to be a nice, tightly produced. And so here's real quick.
We should be drunk for that one.
Okay, fine, fine. But here's my thing. We know that Triple H runs that promotion.
Yeah.
Does that give you pause to think, hey, if this guy ever takes over, we'll be in pretty good hands? I feel pretty good about when I watch NXT. I like for the most part what I see on TV.
Yes, I think Triple H has his finger on the pulse of what needs to be done. I think Vince still goes with his favorites, which is perfectly fine. It worked before. It still works. Look, they're still bringing in the Bucks. But yes, with Triple H at the helm, I think the company will be in very good hands. So yes, I agree with that.
All right, so basically, Groo thinks Lacey Evans wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think Bayley retains. Women's Royal Rumble, Groo picked Charlotte Flair. My pick is Shayna Baszler. Groo is going to go with, unfortunately, he's biting his lip, but Cain Velasquez wins the Men's Royal Rumble. I see Brock rolling from number one through everybody and getting anointed as somehow the dominant super champ.
Or
oh, here we go.
Well, you could have Velasquez be part of it, eliminate Lesnar without winning.
True.
You could have that. But I'm going to stick with Velasquez winning. But my second, barring that, it would be a CM Punk win. I'm going for broke.
He loves to sit on the fence. It's a bit. All right, Kane okay. Well, I mean, I gave you 4 scenarios. I think, I'll stick to my notes. I think the most realistic, not the ones I would say I want to see the most, but the most realistic are Brock or a Roman Reigns win.
Yeah. Well, look, anything can happen at the Royal Rumble.
All right, well, I will be logging on to my WWE network tomorrow evening to watch the 2020 Royal Rumble. I'm sure we'll be texting the following day or maybe during the event, giving some thought. So, all right, that's...
One of these days we're going to have to do a live broadcast while we're watching live.
Can we do that?
We can.
Okay.
We can.
Well, then let's...
I can't do it. I won't be able to do it tomorrow, but I gotta figure out how to set that up, but that would be fun to do.
Well, I think next week we'll go over our thoughts on the Rumble, and of course we have the 12 Billies podcast. We'll talk about Billy Joel, but I think as we look forward to WrestleMania weekend, we'll have a lot of hopefully a lot of wrestling related content on the podcast, and we'll be good to go.
Did you hear? Just looking forward to the 12 Billies one. I really am excited about that one.
I know exactly what you're going to hear. What you're going to ask me.
So answer the question.
Can I predict what you're going to ask me?
Yeah.
Are you going to ask me? Did I hear on Billy Joel Radio the Billy Bruce concert from 2008?
Yes.
I loved it.
I loved it too.
I only heard.
Was it 2008 or was it 2012?
I think it was 2008. It was the Democracy Rocks concert or something.
Because Billy he was on fire, man.
Well, I think Billy was pushed by Bruce. I heard 2 tracks. I heard Born to Run, which I've heard a million times, which I love. But then I heard River of Dreams, where Bruce took a verse, and they sort of extended the final jam at the end of the song. And Billy was really hitting the piano keys, and I was like, I got to listen to this on the next go around and hear, because I've heard Billy do Bruce and cover Bruce a million times, but I've not heard Bruce, and it was nice to hear another artist interpret Billy Joel's work.
Yeah, and I actually thought the 2 best songs of the night, believe it or not, were Allentown and Matter of Trust.
I've heard them. I've heard them off of YouTube, but I'll wait to hear it again.
I thought they did great with that. But yes, I loved that recording.
Did E Street Radio at all reference that concert and promote that at all? I was just curious.
I don't remember them doing that. No, the only reason I knew about it was because our friend Craig was there, and
why would they play it on Billy Joel Radio and not play it on E Street?
Excellent question. I think because it was a Billy Joel show.
Was it?
Yes, because Bruce only had, I think, Patty Scialfa and Roy Bittan with him. The rest was Billy's band. So I'm pretty sure it was a Billy Joel show.
I thought Bruce opened and Billy came on with Bruce, and then
no, I think it was the other way around. I think Billy Joel opened with a couple of tunes, but Bruce was not with the E Street. Did not have the E Street band with him. He just had Bittan and his wife. The rest was Billy Joel's band. So maybe that's why. But who cares? I mean, who cares? I hope they release it because they release every Springsteen show now. I really doesn't do that, but I would love to get a copy of that one. That was terrific.
Yeah, that was good content to add to the Sirius XM channel. That was good.
Yeah, it was very, very fun to listen to.
I mean, I kind of getting tired of hearing Billy talk about, his inspiration for "C'est de Toi, You Are the One." I mean, I'm ready to rip.
Yeah,
I'm ready to rip out whatever hair is left on my head when I hear that for the. 50th.
I never get tired of hearing the heroine story about Scandinavian skies, though. I'll tell you that.
Okay,
but yeah. So so we've got some. So what are some other things we've got coming up headed our way?
All right, so next Saturday we have the 12 Billies podcast. We'll talk about. We mentioned this on the last podcast. We'll talk about Billy Joel, most likely circa 2006 on his sort of late career renaissance. Certainly his domination as a touring artist, the Madison Square Garden residency. Fallout with the last original member of his band, Liberty DeVito, the pluses, the minuses, the controversies, lack of new current material. We'll talk about all that stuff. Probably why he's our most debated, loved, hated artist of all time. And then after that, we have booked part 1 and part 2. This will be interesting. We may push it back if wrestling stuff comes into play, but we do have Howard Stern, The Serious Years, Part 1, which would be his ending of K-Rock into his new universe at Sirius XM, Howard 100, Howard 101, all of the amazing stuff, the excitement early on, the various shows on 101, the different incarnations. And then, of course, the unfortunate falling out and Artie Lang, 2008 suicide attempt. Artie leaves the show. We'll stop there. And then Howard Stern, The Serious Years, Part 2 from 2009 on. Sans Artie Lang. Will they fill
the Marcy Turk years?
Will they fill the chair? Won't they? Yes, Marcy Turk, and then everything changes.
Yeah.
Some for the good, some for not so good, and we'll talk about how the show has evolved into the I don't know. Just stop me. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, yeah, we got to save it for that, but I'm excited about that because, as you know, you and I love talking about this stuff all the time. And
but I will say
we might as well force people to listen to us talk about it.
I did listen to 101, and they had Sternthology from 2014. He had the guy Ron the Belcher, the guy who I did laugh quite a bit.
So did I.
My name is
101 is more fun to listen to these days.
Absolutely. All right, so you're going to edit this up, throw it on the old podcast machine, and off we go.
Yes, and so we're going to end today with a tribute to my Jive Soul bro, Evan Moody.
Thank you very much.
With an old tune from the Doctor of Style, Slick, who is still with us. He's an actual minister now. He's the Reverend Slick. And but I don't think this is the song that he plays when he jumps into the pulpit and starts preaching.
Yeah,
but
probably not. Not sure this is aged very well.
Yeah, but anyway, I am looking forward to tomorrow night, the Royal Rumble, and us talking about it, debriefing, and everything headed our way.
Moody Groo, nothing worthwhile.
1, 2, 3, rip 'em.
Quack, quack.
You never get nothing in the end. What you talking about, ladies? This is the Slickster talking to you.